So I love this. This is great. The Centers for Spiritual Living theme for the year of 2020, Spiritual Vision. The February theme is Seeing Through the Eyes of Love. Today's topic, what is your message to the world? Dennis Merritt Jones wrote, spirituality, compassion, loving kindness, integrity, equality, non-judgment, and non-violence are words synonymous with both Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Their lives became their message, and the world knew it. We all have a message to bring to the world. That is why we are here. Let us raise ourselves in the vibration of love by saying out loud together,
Everywhere I look, I see the face of God. I see all beings through the eyes of love. I walk the path of loving kindness, realizing that by treating others with loving kindness, I am being loving and kind to myself.
Thank you, Kristen. So, what is your message to the world? Mahatma Gandhi said, "My life is my message." And he went on to say something else too. He said, he looked at what the source of our message is, and he started with beliefs. He said, your beliefs become your thoughts become your actions or your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. In other words, your message. Your beliefs then are the source of your message. And that's no surprise to those of us who've been involved in this teaching for quite a long time. There was a story that was told about late one night, a wise teacher brought all of his it was late one night, brought all of his students into the village. And he said to them, I'm old and I'm helpless and I can no longer make money. So what I would like all of you to do is to go find someone who's alone, pull them in a dark corner, take their money, and bring it to me. Well, all of the students agreed except for one. And the one looked at his master and said, Master, I can't do that. He said, because myself, my inner self will be watching what I'm doing, will always be looking. So the master was very pleased, and he said, he breathed and he said, here's a student who truly knows who he is and knows what the self is. And I invite all of you to follow his lead and live your lives from this place of knowing who you are. So the belief that we're talking about, that's the source that will really shift our lives, is being rooted and grounded in who we are in truth, living from the awareness that my divine self is always observing me, observing my thoughts, observing my words, observing my actions. And so this is a sign of spiritual maturity when we get to the point where no matter who is looking, we do what we know is the right thing. So the ego, the human ego, on the other hand, without the guidance of the God self, will blindly follow along in order to gain approval, with no thought of how its actions will affect others or themselves. And think about what this does. And we talk about integrity, being in alignment with our values and our thoughts, words, and actions. What does this do to our self-respect when we behave in ways that we know are not in alignment with our values? And I know I get a tense feeling in my body when I know that when I've spoken out of alignment with my values. I don't know about the rest of you, but our bodies really give us signals that can help keep us on track. And so, again, the spiritual mature person, the mark of spiritual maturity, is when we cannot be bought or swayed by the world's opinions or the opinions of others. There's an old adage that says actions speak louder than words. And so to me, the great peace activists in the world and speak with their actions or have spoken with their actions. And think about Martin Luther King and what he faced in terms of opposition and violent opposition and being thrown in jail. And yet he stood true to his values. The same thing with Gandhi. Gandhi led, and both of them led nonviolent protests for things that they believed in, even in the face of violent opposition and with the refusal to be violent in return. Those are great examples of living in integrity, in alignment with one's values, and knowing that our spiritual self, our God self, is always watching, right? And I think of also Malala, young Malala, who a young Muslim woman she's won a peace award. She, despite opposition when she goes into some of these countries that really put down education for girls, she goes in there and she works at getting together the resources and everything necessary anyway, even in the midst of all of that. I think of the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama lives in alignment with his belief in equality. And I hear stories of him going to hotels, making friends with all the people, right? Have you heard that? Yeah. He makes friends with everybody who works in the hotel to the point where when it's time for him to leave, they line up to say goodbye to him. He lives in integrity with his values and with his beliefs. And I guarantee you, each of these individuals are firmly rooted and grounded in who they are in truth. They understand they are a divine presence. They may use different words, but they understand that they are pure divinity, observing themselves and wanting to therefore live in alignment with who they are in truth. And this brings up the word integrity, living in integrity. Integrity means the state of being whole and undivided. It comes from awareness that we are whole in essence, part of the integrity of the whole, undivided spiritual or spirit presence. And it's also an awareness of how it works, that all things are made out of this one source through the creative imagination of the one. And we, as individualized expressions, are microcosms of that great macrocosm. Our creative mind creates our world. And it creates it, of course, out of its own essence, because there's nothing other than that presence that we can call God, Spirit, the one, life, whatever it is that we choose, that everything's made out of this. We can call it energy, substance, whatever you want to call it, but it's this essence. And then there are the immutable laws that uphold this entire process of creation. So with this awareness of who we are and what we are a part of, and this innate wholeness that we are, when we live in integrity with that wholeness, in alignment with that wholeness, our lives just work better. Then there's another aspect to this thing called integrity. It's called to integrate, to combine one thing with another to make it whole. And so what this reminds me of is that when we combine, and actually they're already combined, but in our own minds, when we realize that we are combining our human nature with our divine nature into one unitive state of consciousness, one whole state of consciousness, we function better, right? Because then the so-called ego that could be off running things separately is then unified with the one, and therefore is the servant of the Spirit, in partnership with the Spirit, essence of who we are. So that's integration, or combining with another aspect of ourselves to make a whole. And so from this state of consciousness, unitive consciousness, there is a clear realization that every time we meet another, and I'm looking at all of you, and I'm reminding myself that I am looking into the face of God. Each one of you, I'm looking into the eyes of God. There's no separation. There's no God and something else. There's God as, or the divine as, each one of us. And so everywhere we go, we meet the divine. And I know that these great beings on our planet who model this integrity, I guarantee you, everywhere they look, they see the divine. They see themselves actually reflected back at them, because we're all one. We're all of the same source. So their actions then reflect the things that Kristen mentioned: loving kindness, peace, equality, nonviolence. We could go on and on and on with all of those qualities that relate to an awareness or a consciousness of oneness. There's a story that was told by Alan Cohen in one of his books that I think is really appropriate and powerful when we're talking about this thing called an integrity, being in integrity. Alan said that he and his friend Sharon sat on a beach with a couple by the name of Mike and Cindy. And Mike and Cindy were at odds with one another. They were bickering back and forth, sarcasm, and the barbs were just flowing right and left. And then suddenly, what they did is they said, they said, would the two of you, Alan and Sharon, would the two of you like to go with us? It's about an hour's drive away, and get in our car and ride with us and go look at a property. And of course, Alan, like most of us, said, well, you know what? I have another appointment. Sharon, however, coming from a different place, very lovingly turned to them and said, and I want to read this because it's very powerful. She said, I'm uncomfortable with the hostility that you both are generating. I don't think I could be with it for several hours. Integrity. And think about how that served that couple. I mean, that's what I was thinking. Because they could then realize how their actions were impacting other people. So, Alan Cohen went on to say he really learned something that day. He learned about how he hid his feelings, kept them to himself and his thoughts, and how it maybe not only did not serve him, but did not serve other people. When we go into that place of hiding ourselves, it's called spiritual amnesia. Isn't that interesting? Spiritual amnesia. So the more that we begin to be honest and clear with love, with each other, the more powerful our lives are, and the more intimacy that we can create with other people, because we're not constantly keeping a barrier between ourselves and others. So let us remember then, let's break out of that spiritual amnesia and remember that we are individualizations of the one omnipresent love, the presence of the divine, living in human skin. No, this is a vehicle. Which brings me to the next point. What message are you giving your body? And what message is it giving you? when I think about it, and I just invite all of you to contemplate this with me, think about the impact that our media, our modern media, has on our concepts of our bodies. And there's this constant message. I'm seeing it come through on my emails too. Constant message that your body is flawed in some way and it needs to be fixed, and they have the product for you, right? So our culture then encourages us to be in a battle with our bodies, with our bodies. And so what does that do? That then we can be on constant diets, working ourselves to exhaustion, missing sleep, overcommitments. And so what message then are you giving your body when you do that? What message? And then what message does your body give you when you do these other things that are basically like being in battle with your body? So in our teachings, in the Science of Mind teachings, we believe that each one of us is whole, perfect, and complete. And that includes our bodies. That includes our bodies. We're whole, perfect, and complete. And that the body then is not something to be fixed. Rather, it's something to be celebrated for its beauty, its power, and its ability to house the infinite nature that we are while we are on this plane, while we are on planet Earth. It's meant to be our vehicle. Without our bodies, how could we possibly have this experience that we're having now? And I keep hearing over and over again that those who have had out-of-body experiences and have come back or have had near-death experience will say how we have an opportunity here to create heaven on earth. That's what we're here for. We're here to experience heaven. We're not here to experience misery. We're here to co-create heaven on earth, a world that works for everyone. And that's why it's such a key part of our spiritual teachings and a key part of our community. That's something that we are committed to as a community. So by gently supporting our bodies and listening to our bodies, because remember, the body reflects our consciousness. It reflects our thoughts. It reflects our words. Every thought and word reflected in the body. Anybody notice how your mind goes off in a direction that you really didn't want it to go, and you can feel it in your body? I can feel it every time. And I invite you to do practices like yoga and Tai Chi and things like that so that you can get in touch with your body, or any type of sports, but anything that will help you learn to tune in to your bodies and to be able to listen. That's part of the journey. It's the feedback mechanism that keeps us in alignment with who we are, that keeps us right on point with the message that we choose to give the world. I love this quote. This is by Nayira Wahid. Listen to this. This is so beautiful. And I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. It took a long breath and replied, I have been waiting my whole life for this. I'm going to read that again. It's so beautiful. And I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. It took a long breath and replied, I have been waiting my whole life for this. So when we befriend our body and listen to the body's messages, we will fuel it. We will naturally fuel it with the right foods in the right amounts. We will exercise it properly and not too much. And where was I? I don't know. Oh, and we will, in general, will love it, and it will respond to us with vital health and energy. So the body then, like everything else in our lives, is a mirror of our beliefs and our inner thoughts. The body is always talking to us, and it's important then for us to take time to listen. So I'd like you to practice with me just for a moment. Just close your eyes. And I'd like you to give the message to your body in this here now moment that you want to be its friend. So just tell your body, I want to be your friend. And then ask it, what message are you trying to tell me? And listen for a moment. Take a breath. And then I invite you to turn to somebody that's near you and share with them the message that you just got from your body. So find somebody to share with. It might be 3 people. All right, let's take a breath. What message would you like to give to the world? What message? That's for you to contemplate. If we come from that place of our divine essence, knowing who we are, and then we can choose one of the qualities of the divine: love, peace, joy, wisdom, grace, beauty. There are a lot of different qualities of the divine. And what is the message that I choose to share with the planet? When you get clarity on that, I guarantee you that it will permeate your thoughts, your words, your actions, and the message that you convey to the world then will be a message that you are very pleased with and very satisfied with. And so I invite us to accept this with a vital yes, and so it is.